How to make Putin tell the truth. Russian attacks on Ukrainian cities continue. This is what we're going to talk about today. Hi, I am Elena, and this is my political channel Enough. Enough of propaganda. And that's what we're going to discuss in a minute. This footage is from the Ukrainian city Kryvyi Rih, or Kryvyi Rih, how we will call it in Russian, at night from June 12th to June 13th. This city was attacked by Russia, and as far as I know at this point in time, 13 people dead because of Mr. Guritsa, one of the victims, died in the hospital from burns. So it makes it 13 people dead and 38 injured because of Russia shelling civilians. The city Kryvyi Rih, as I showed you, and I will show you a few more, this is the example, another example of Putin lies. That is why I personally don't even recommend bothering to listen to Putin. There is no point in it. But if you do, if you wasted your time anyways, there is very simple way how to make Putin tell at least somewhat truth, and sometimes quite a bit of it. In all his speeches, when he accusing somebody or some country of something, exchange the name of that country, for example, Ukraine, onto Russia. And then you will find out more truth than you expected to find in Putin's speeches. And you can practice on this particular one.
С помощью вооруженных сил. Ну, разве это не ответ на преодоление каких-то красных линий? Вот первое. Второе. Не все, может быть, у нас там проходит в средствах массовой информации, хотя стесняться здесь нечего. Вот, видели, ну, тоже видно, когда там удары по всей энергосистеме Украины. Это разве не ответ на преодоление красных линий? А фактическое уничтожение штаб-квартиры Главного управления разведки Вооруженных сил Украины под Киевом, это в Киеве практически. Разве это не ответ? Ответ. Мы и дальше будем избирательно работать, не будем делать так, как эти придурки лупят по гражданским объектам, по жилым кварталам. С помощью...
You just saw, basically respond, how Russians, morons, bombing the civilian buildings in Ukraine. And don't let me even start, I might make a whole new video about destruction of Novokakhovka Dam. That's how they whacking infrastructure of Ukraine, and that's how they were trying to leave Ukraine in this winter without heat, without water, without electricity. I had videos about that as well. And one of the prime examples of Putin's lies is in one of the videos, and several videos in fact, about Crimea, for example. How Putin, the leader of the country, nuclear country, the biggest country in the world, lied to all of you and all of us, Russian people, and everybody in the world when he was saying that those mysterious little green men are not Russians. And then he admitted it a few months later and said, yeah, they were Russians, so what? What are you gonna do about it? That is why people like him need to be stopped. But you can see for yourself, if you exchange whatever he said about Ukraine and onto Russia, then you will find somewhat truth in what Putin said. This footage is from TV channel Rain. This is about what was happened in Kryvyi Rih.
Заботиться о домашних животных, несмотря ни на что. И это вот такая примета тоже этой войны. Тревога звучала по всей стране, во всех регионах, кроме Харьковской и Днепропетровской областей.
And Ukrainians trying to save not only just people, but animals as well, and I'll show it to you in a minute. And there was alarm in the whole Ukraine, except Kharkiv and Dnepropetrovsk region, which is, my poor friends in Kharkiv was bombing every day. One day they get break.
Силы ПВО отбили атаку в Харькове, из-за удара люди не пострадали.
So luckily people in Kharkiv wasn't hurt this time, because Ukrainian defense, air defense, saved them. This is what Tatiana, one of the residents of that bombed building in Kryvyi Rih, has to say.
Наші хлопці, які нас рятують, наші люди, які так тримаються. Тому що коли ми вилізли з-під завалів, перше, що я побачила, це люди, які повискакували голі, з голими дітьми. І з сусідніх будинків, де теж все повилітало, вискакували люди, виносили капці, халати, воду, ковдри діткам. Що вам допомогти, що вам надати, яку вам допомогу надати, ходіть до нас. Отакі в нас люди, і вони хочуть нас перемогти, нічого в них не вийде. Тому будемо триматися купи, будемо триматися разом, і нічого в них не вийде. Буде допомагати Європа, не буде, ми будемо до останнього. Це наша земля, це наша земля. І ми своїм дітям передамо нашу землю.
І вже стосовно власне сьогоднішнього події, могли би сказати, як це відбувалося, як ви почули вибух?
Синок спали, гепнуло. Я в купі скла, воно гепає другий раз. Я не можу долізти до мами. У мене старенька мама, скоро 80 років. Лінолеум позагортала, ми через те скло і лінолеум ще обличчя заливало кров'ю, я нічого не бачила, куди я лізу. Я піднімаюся, він знову гупає, знову падаю. Почали вилазити з під'їзду, почало падати дерево. Ну так, почали горіти машини, автівки у дворі. Отако. Дуже швидко приїхали, як на мій погляд, дуже швидко приїхали поліцейські. Дуже швидко вони це все організували, куди нам. Ми ж як от у сліпий темно. Дуже вони нас швидко, куди де стати, куди піти, якось, ну. А тоді стояли і дивилися, як горить наш джип.
А як вас звати?
Тетяна.
So her name is Tatiana, and she is saying that's what happened. So see what happens in Ukraine. This is another example of Putin's lies. This is another witness statement from the same city.
Ребят, вот русский мир. Ну как, блядь, спишь, 3:30, нету нихуя, блядь, ни квартиры, ни машины, сука, а там люди умирают.
The translation is correct. They just skipped several swear words, which is understandable. And this is more victims. In addition to the residential building, the creatures, they called Russians, targeted a warehouse with bottled water, which was supposed to be taken in particular to the Kherson region, where I add from myself that because of Russia, blow up the dam, whole bunch of people left without water and everything. And about 25 civilians worked at the warehouse. And this water was transported to all corners of our country, in particular to Kherson region, for the victims of the explosion of the Kakhovska dam, said the head of Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. The impact killed 7 people working in the night shift. The youngest deceased was 17 years old. 3 more workers are at the hospital. A total of 11 people died as a result of the shelling. This is Vladislav Kuznetsov, Andriy Rihel, Anton Babich, and Viktor Толстов. The young people, as far as I know, one of them was basically younger than, many of them younger than my son. And this is the funeral of these people. They say Danil Kornilov was 21 years old. He has a wife and 1-year-old son. Viktor Толстов, I believe, is the same gentleman we seen here, the young man. This is their funerals in Ukraine. Look at those people. Let's say Толстов Viktor Yevgemovich. He born in 1999. He's the age of my son. As I said, the Ukrainians are saving animals as well.
Это наша, наверное, это наша. А еще есть какие-то коты там 5?
This is ours, she says. And several cats were rescued. And basically that woman and her husband, well, they hardly could be able to leave the building, and finally she picking up her cat. But Putin didn't have enough. obviously. He decided to hit Odessa city. It's right on the Black Sea coast. During World War II, Odessa was heroically defended from the Nazis, and it's one of the hero cities of the USSR. They have a medal awarded and the title of the hero city. Now Russia bombing hero city of Odessa. And 3 people died, 13 wounded. And look what they bombing.
Kalibr, выпущенными с корабля в Черном море.
4 rockets, missiles Kalibr was shot from the ship in the Black Sea. Black Sea fleet has to go. This can't continue like that.
Повреждены бизнес-центр, учебное заведение, жилищный комплекс, кафе и магазины в центре города.
It was the apartments and cafes, shops, and the business center. These are apparently Putin doesn't bomb civilians.
Одна из ракет попала в склад магазина, где погибли 3 работника.
One of the missiles hit at the shop, at the store. It hit the storage, and 3 people get killed there.
На месте возник пожар площадью 400 квадратных метров.
And then the fire started, 400 square meters. They hit McDonald's, of all places. This is the center, must be center of decision making or something like that. Again, in the middle of the night, this is the city of Odessa. A hero city of Odessa. Bombed by Russia. And who is the morons who bombing civilians? I wonder. It annoys me, all that pretense of to be Christians and so on. This is such a hypocritical piece of garbage to say. Putin is daring to cross the steps of the church. This is the church of Saint Vladimir and Saint Ludmila in Odessa after bombing. That's how Russia treats churches. Orthodox churches. The same religion they claim to be. None of it is true. It's all a garbage. You cannot listen to anything what Russia says. Must have been center of decision making. Or maybe armory. I don't see any weapons here, do you? And on June 13th, Russian military shelled the church in the village of Belozerka, Kherson region. This is a different church. As a result of the shelling, 69-year-old priest Mykola Palahniuk died. Very religious of Putin. And more Odessa. We will remember all of this. These are the facts for the war crimes committed by Russia and committed by Putin. Still Odessa. It is hard to watch. This is hard to watch and hard to show, but we need to know this. This is from the tweet of Mikhailo Podolyak, the advisor of the Ukrainian president. This is the photo of just one family killed by Russian missile attack on Kryvyi Rih. It's the first city I showed you. Tonight there was another terrorist attack, which was a few days ago. It's not tonight, I'm commenting. And again, 3 dead, this time in Odessa. All the missiles fired by Russia were produced in the spring of 2023. In all of them, without exception, we find Western-made microelectronics supplied by private companies to Russia through their third countries, bypassing sanctions restrictions. Question: isn't it time to close the obvious loopholes and gaps in the sanctions packages? Otherwise, it looks frankly weird. On the one hand, our companies supply missile components to the aggressor country and NATO's main doctrinal strategic rival during a full-scale war. And on the other hand, we are looking for missiles for Ukraine air defense. Isn't it something? these young people could have been alive if some of us, Western people, wouldn't provide Russia with the components to create the deadly weapons what killing Ukrainians. We need to help Ukraine in more ways than we're doing. We need to stop that. Russia accessing, going around sanctions and accessing weapons, accessing electronics to create new weapons to kill Ukrainians, who just the only country standing between us and a butcher from Russia, Putin.
Сьогодні в день завершились рятувальні роботи та розбір завалів в Кривому Розі після ракетної атаки терористів. На жаль, 11 людей загинули. Серед них одна дитина.
This is the speech of Ukrainian President Mr. Zelensky. Now we know it's a little bit old, but now we know 13 people died.
Мої співчуття рідним та близьким. Всього більше 30 людей травмовані. Усім їм надається необхідна допомога. Я хочу подякувати кожному і кожній, хто брав участь в рятувальній операції, рятувальники ДСНС, лікарі, поліція, волонтери, місцева влада, звичайні містяни. Дякую за кожне врятоване життя. Дякую за кожну людину, якій сьогодні допомогли. Цей свідомий російський удар по звичайному місту лише вкотре доводить просту істину. Ми маємо разом з партнерами забезпечити фізично такі умови, щоб російський терор став неможливим. Перше – це наш повітряний щит. Достатня кількість систем ППО достатньої потужності. Плюс сучасні винищувачі. Коли буде фізично обмежена нашим повітряним щитом російська здатність бити по наших містах і селах, тільки тоді держава-терорист зрозуміє, що у миру для всіх українців і у програшу для Росії немає альтернатив. Друге – це знищення основи для терору, для виробництва державою-терористом нових ракет. На жаль, Росія досі має можливість отримувати критичні компоненти для виробництва ракет, які створені компаніями з різних країн світу, в тому числі компаніями з деяких країн-партнерів. Різними шляхами ці компоненти потім поставляють в Росію. Якщо взяти, до прикладу, одну із ракет, які вдарили сьогодні по Кривому Рогу, то близько 50 компонентів у ній переважно мікроелектроніка, вироблення в інших країнах. І сьогодні відбулася зустріч представників нашої держави із дипломатами відповідних країн. Список компаній, які постачають Росії компоненти для вбивств. У всіх партнерів є. Є цей список. Розуміння, як російські терористи намагаються обманути світ, теж у всіх в світі є.
So, Mr. Zelensky demanding swift action, and I agree with him. We should stand up and protect Ukraine and stop that going around sanctions from Russia. Mr. Zelensky, President Zelensky, has also said that Ukraine has imposed sanctions on all companies in Russia that produce those missiles, and he wants that such complete sanctions should be imposed globally against all of them. Every way of circumventing sanctions should be appropriately punished at the global level as well. If someone acts as an intermediary or works together with Russia so that terrorists can continue to blow up residential buildings and kill people, such entities, where business or government, deserve a response from the world. A tough response. And he's saying that our partners has information on this. So I demanded personally from my government of Canada to support Mr. Zelensky and Ukraine and stop that from happening. And so I hope you will do. Please let know your politicians that it is not okay to your companies of your country support murder of people in Ukraine. This is not okay. And this is a little bit of news from Russia about Russia war in Ukraine. And apparently, after Russia shelling its own cities in Belgorod when Russian volunteer corps invaded Russian basically their own Russian territory. And some residents of Russian border village in Belgorod region were evacuated. They complaining now about looting in Moscow by Russian troops. And this is that village we talked about in the previous video, Novovolozhanka in Belgorod region. And they complaining. And they absolutely right. One of the residents, Natalia Chemerchenko, told the governor and that military personnel of the Russian Federation break into many houses, although the state of emergency has not been introduced and they do not have the right to enter private homes. They live in our homes, lead an ugly lifestyle, alcohol, drinking, and other things remain in the form of garbage and dirt. Toilets and houses are polluted. Personal belongings and property are stolen. We don't want our houses, which have already suffered from the actions of the armed forces of Ukraine, to be now still a haven for the outrages of our defenders, she added. And so on. And there was complaints from Shebekina districts and so on. And you can read this article, I can provide it to you. But in general, what did they expect it? And besides, who was shelling them? Russia was the one who shelling them quite a bit. And Russian army was the one who looting them. This is actually one of the sources in Russian about the same thing. It said they stealing from their own. People of Novovolozhanka complaining to the Russian soldiers, marauders, and so on. And I have lots of kind of information about this. This one also was on TV Rain. This is a piece of that letter I just read to you. She's writing to the governor and saying, "Dear Vyacheslav Vladimirovich, we're respectfully asking you to put attention to our problems. Village Novovolozhanka, street Volchanskaya Street." And part of that I already told you in English. Don't see why Russians so surprised. Media Zona reported on Russian marauders basically in Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. This article said the map of marauders, of looters, where they just officially watched who sending parcels from Ukraine and to Russia, in what cities and how many. Where was the parcel sent? By Russian military from Mosul, it says. And some blogger published a video on the blog how Russian military is sending parcels with things like electronics, home appliances, and clothes, and through special SDEC, it's like special courier company. And in Belarus, for instance, and some Belarus people and activists provided basically how Russia sent parcels from Belarus and in what cities. 128 parcels to Rubtsovsk, 3 to Angarsk, 2 to Moscow, and so on, in different places, and some of them even managed to send something like a Bayraktar. Mediazona created its own map, most full map of marauders, and Mediazona watched how Russian military in 3 months sent from the border of Ukraine 58 tons of parcels and 1 Arlan, not Bayraktar, Arlan. And you could see this is the map, part of the map, and each of that little squares is 200 kgs. And you could see Yurga, it's a city, Yekaterinburg, Samara, and some other Russian cities. And they basically saying that the biggest, this is by amount of kgs, the biggest was Yekaterinburg, Yurga, and Yekaterinburg, and Cherbarkul cities. That depends on the city and so on, and how they researched it, and they even created interactive kind of map about this, from what city to what city parcels were sent and so on. Like Yekaterinburg, 6,056 kgs were sent and stuff. So you can watch on different different, depends on the color, the wider the stripe, the more parcels sent, and so on. So this is the proofs and facts about Russian looting places in Ukraine. So what did Russians expect? They're not gonna loot and marauder cities in Russia? I'm not surprised. Meanwhile, Putin has nothing to hope for. The world stands with Ukraine.
We will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. We will not back down.
Yes, brave Ukrainians are fighting for their lives, but they're fighting for our lives and they're fighting for our freedom as well as those, and we're gonna help them. And a little bit of fun in the end. This is Ukrainian defenders.
Мужики, я не знаю, на воєнкоматі, походу, щось перепутали. Не туди мене відправили. Одні дівчата.
So he's quite happy to serve with some girls, and yeah, women are serving in Ukrainian army, a lot of them, and they defending their country, and we will help them. Please help Ukraine, and please help to stop Putin. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.